And just like that, we're back at it. Quick turnaround. This is game week 23. The Michael Jordan of all game weeks in the Premier League. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. This is EPL Insights. We had a podcast just on Monday for some midweek fixtures. We're back here on Thursday. It's transfer deadline day. Jake, can you feel the excitement?
Yeah, it's buzzing over here. Yeah. So many moves.
They need to start calling it, it's like loan deadline day, because that's all that's happening is potential loans. Obviously, we're not quite sure the full magnitude of it. We're not expecting much. Fulham might be able to go on and bring in a striker. It looks like one's in need. Nottingham Forest, a goalkeeper, but not too much else going on.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, last year it was mainly Chelsea that drove the January transfer window, and they've kind of hit their FFP cap, so very little business. Villa have just signed Morgan Rogers from Villa. That's pretty much it, really. As you said, Forest have brought in a couple. Bournemouth have brought in Enes Unal from Spain. Kiefer Moore looks like he's exiting. But yeah, it's compared to probably every January window for the last 10 years, this has been a very quiet one, hasn't it?
I don't want to gripe. I want to be really positive on this podcast. I kind of was the old man on the porch, screaming at how the month of January just wasn't great for Premier League fans, but this is more like it. Games in quick succession, going to build back up some momentum for hopefully what will be a great month of February. Over the course of this podcast, we'll present to you our feature 5. We'll go rapid fire for the rest, presenting our best bets in the process. A decent enough week. Of course, there's 2 games still to go. Wolves, Manchester United, West Ham, and Bournemouth on Thursday that are going to be played after this podcast. So just keep that in mind in terms of our prognostication and predictions that are upcoming. But a couple of results that jump off the page. Liverpool, you were spot on, Jake. Liverpool crushing Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea are really Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde here, because you never know what to expect. I thought that they were trending in the right direction, but Liverpool at Anfield, just unbeatable. And City going stride for stride with them, a straightforward, a very easy 3-1 victory over Burnley. Erling Haaland came back and came off the bench as well. Those two are probably the most standout for the title race, unless you want to include me winning a head-to-head against you. Newcastle beating Aston Villa. Perhaps they're in danger of dropping out of the top 4 as we look further down the road. What do you make of those results, Jake?
Yeah, Liverpool just... I don't know what it is, but they look better than they did earlier on in the season when they were picking up as many wins. But yeah, we all expected them to struggle. No Trent, no Robertson, no Salah. But if anything, they've looked better. Conor Bradley's looked really good at right back. He looks like a ready-made Trent replacement. It provides plenty of headaches for Klopp. Good ones, I guess. You don't have to play Trent at right back if you don't want. You can play him inside, play him in midfield if you've got a solid right back there. I think Joe Gomez has probably been one of the stars of the Premier League over the last 2 months. I think he's been one of the best players in the league. Defensively, he's been excellent. And obviously, when he's been asked to play right back, he's created chances as well. They look very settled. And I think having McAllister back in midfield is huge. He provides so much for them. And yeah, Endo provides something a little bit different, but he's not as good as McAllister at spreading the ball around. And I like the front 3 without Salah. I really do. I like the dynamic. I like the interchanging. They're all, Salah obviously fits into this, but they're all incredibly hardworking. They press aggressively. It does look very promising for Liverpool. Now you're obviously going to welcome Salah back in, Trent, Robertson. They're only going to get stronger to be able to fight on all fronts and send Klopp off with a quadruple is what they're hoping. But yeah, City on the other side, they just took care of business very easily, didn't they? I think you had a nice winner in that game. City on the handicap in the first half, got it over and done with very quickly. The other big game, Newcastle. You called that very, very well in the way in which they played. They absolutely dominated Villa as well. It wasn't even a close contest. No. Maybe slight signs of trouble for Villa brewing, given the level of that performance. And the fact that if you look at it on paper, they've had a very kind run of fixtures over the last 5, and they only won once. So it's Blades, Man United, Burnley, Everton, Newcastle at home. Newcastle's away form's been bad. So to only pick up 1 win in that 5-match stretch is a little bit concerning. So yeah, definitely we'll be looking at opposing them for a top 4 right now.
And especially when Spurs go on and win again, come from behind victory against Brentford, did in impressive fashion. Not a very good first half. Big Ange makes some changes and come firing out of the gates in the second half as well. What was very interesting about Unai Emery said that there are like 7-8 teams better than Aston Villa in the Premier League, and that perspective is needed. This was a team that hadn't lost a game at home until this week. So perhaps he's foreshadowing or foretelling maybe his read on where his team is at right
Sounds
now.
like he's covering his own ass just in case he's on a bad run. Yeah,
I think it might be injecting just a little bit of reality because it was dream world over the course of the first half of the season. I mean, they're also playing in Europe still. It's going to be a difficult run-in, isn't it?
Yeah, I understand tempering expectations, but they were never in a title race. They were never going to win the title. Like I always had it between them and Spurs for top four. I always was leaning towards Spurs because of, like you said, the lack of European football. That'll help them. Yeah, it's just whether their levels were sustainable. And, over the course, since he's come in, they have proven to be sustainable. They've done it over a long period of time. But soon, they've got quite a few important players there. And if one or two of them start to get injured, as Spurs have, they've lost quite a few key players. They're missing some now. I think Villa will drop off quite drastically. The other big story, I think we need to talk about it as well, from midweek, is that Luton Town are outside of the relegation zone. What a story that is.
And it was the way they played, too. Brighton didn't have a sniff in that game, and Brighton's been one of the most competitive outfits. I know over the last month or two, the results haven't gone their way, but the way they play, Brighton couldn't get a sniff at Kenilworth Road. They're turning that stadium into a little bit of a fortress right now, not always coming away with results, but even one goal competitive losses against some of the top teams in this league. So they're a team to look out for, and we'll see if they can back up that performance going to another difficult place to play in St. James's Park this weekend. And it's kind of pushed Everton even into a more vulnerable position now, not knowing if they're going to have another points deduction. So nervous times for Sean Dyche and company at Goodison Park as Luton Town. They look a real competitive team. They look very much a mid-table side in terms of the way they're playing. And I think the data backs it up, Jake. A lot of their numbers, especially expected goals against, especially away from home, came early in the season. It's not quite playing out that way anymore, is it?
No, they definitely improved. I still have the massive question marks about them away from home. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that psychologically now, they're in a great place because, like you said, there's potential. You can't rely on another points deduction for Everton, but now they've got the noses in front in that kind of head-to-head race. They'll be looking up again. They'll be looking above and seeing that Forest are only a point ahead of them, and they've got a game in hand over them. Brentford are only 3 points ahead of them now. So there's 3 or 4 teams there. Palace, they're only 5 points behind Palace. They could really drag a few more teams into the mix, and that only increases their chances of surviving. So, it's really positive news for them for sure.
If you want to look at the futures plays on Pinnacle to win the title, City still odds on at -160, but Liverpool, they've dropped a little bit. They were plus 220 at the start of the week, plus 200. Looks like the markets are adjusting to the fact that some of the questions that may have been around Liverpool, I don't know how many there were, Jake, maybe perhaps they're away from front and center. Some of those feelings are being alleviated a little bit. I don't think that is any way indicative of anyone losing faith in Man City. I think it's just acknowledging how good this Liverpool side is.
Yeah, exactly. That's purely off the back of the performance as opposed to the result against Chelsea. Because they were utterly dominant in every single phase. Defence, midfield, attack. There was only one team that was ever going to win that game. And I would suspect Liverpool have got a massive game this weekend. If they go to the Emirates and win, then that price of a Liverpool title will shorten quite drastically.
Brilliant. Let's get straight into this week's fixtures. 10 games to break down. I think of another 9 plays. I think I've had 11 last game week. I have 9 this week. We're both coming off what looked to be, with 2 games to go, potentially profitable weeks as well. So let's keep this rolling. All of our numbers, our markets come from Pinnacle, 25 years as leaders in the market. Now let's start off with the early match on Saturday. It's Everton and Spurs. You can back Everton to win at plus 193, the draw at plus 276, and an away win for Spurs at plus 134. A goalless draw for Everton at Craven Cottage against Fulham. Beto, a sensational late miss in that game. The two sides combined for 46 shots. Everton had 21 of them, and Everton, another big XG, expected goals at 2.83. That's back-to-back goalless draws in the Premier League now for Everton, and they actually haven't scored a league goal in 3 games. They haven't scored more than once in a game in their last 9 in all competitions. The goals have really dried up, and they played to under 2.5 in 4 of 5. That being said, Jordan Pickford remains really, really solid. He has 6 clean sheets in his last 9, 8 overall. That's best in that category in the Premier League. Goodison Park hasn't been a friendly place to Everton this season. 3-2-6 at home. That's tied for the 3rd worst in terms of home points. 11 goals scored, but this is the thing. Their XG is 21. 10 more expected goals than they've actually scored. Onana, Idrissa Gueye, and Doucouré all missed last game. Idrissa Gueye's on his way back from AFCON. Good news. Onana's dealing with a knee. He's going to be touch and go, but has a chance. Danjuma hurt his ankle at the end of that game. He looks iffy as well. And Doucouré still looks a little bit off. So some significant injuries still in the midfield, which I think is affecting their overall play. As for Spurs, they're now tied for 4th with Villa, 43 points and just 3 points back of City and Arsenal. That is in after a 3-2 come-from-behind win against Brentford. They're down 1-0 at halftime. Postecoglou makes some changes, some adjustments, 3 unanswered goals, and a Richarlison winner yet again. And they were able to hold on in the end. It wasn't pretty in the end, and Brentford really pushed. But Spurs victorious once again are now 5-1-1 in their last 7 in the Premier League. No clean sheets in 5 in the Premier League, and they played to over 2.5 in 12 of their last 13 Premier League games. Both teams to score exactly the same, 12 in their last 13. 5-4-2 away from home. They're excellent in terms of their travels. 19 points is the 4th most away. 24 away goals, tied with City for the most away goals scored. Basuma and Son are still away, but Sarr, some good news for the Spurs midfield. He's on his way back from AFCON. Head-to-head, Spurs victorious 2-1. Spurs haven't lost in 6 to Everton, and the Toffees haven't been able to keep a clean sheet in their last 4. So this looks to be a game that Everton needs something from, Jake. It's starting to get a little tense, a little bit nervous down at the bottom based on the points deductions and some of the improved play by the likes of Luton Town. And Spurs just keep on ticking along. Just every week they kind of convince me they're a little bit better of that kind of version of themselves. So do you have a play? Is there a play in this game that you're looking at that you like?
I'm going to rinse and repeat from midweek. I'm going to take Spurs to win and both teams to score. A bigger price than midweek, obviously, because they're away from home. We're getting plus 297 for a Tottenham win and both teams scoring, which I think is huge. And I think it's something that we can continue to look to profit from, especially when we think Tottenham are going to win, especially with no Sarr and no Basuma. So, I think this has got a really good chance again. Spurs, as we've said, away from home have been pretty good all season long. They look very good going forward, even without Son. They're creating plenty of chances, but they always look vulnerable defensively. And I think, as you've said, the way in which it's shaping up down there, Everton are going to have a go at some point. I know they've had a couple of 0-0s, but you rightly pointed out that in midweek, that 0-0 should have been really 0-0. Both teams created a host of chances, missed some really glaring opportunities, which kind of shows you the open nature with which Everton possibly will enter this game as well. I quite like Spurs to do what they've been doing most of the season, which is beating the lesser teams and ultimately scoring more, outscoring them, which is Postecoglou's mantra, if you like. We'll score more than you. And I thought that was a fairly big price. I'm only going to go half a unit this time, though, just because they're away from home. Everton's finishing issues definitely concern me, because they're massively underperforming their XG, which suggests that maybe there's a little bit more to that meets the eye there. Half a unit on Tottenham to win and both teams to score at plus 297.
I like the play. I don't disagree in the sentiment that you've shared. We'll see about the players coming back into the Everton side. I think that matters as well. I think you just said it. You said it. Everton's finishing problems. That's the only reason why I can't go on and make that bet. They kind of remind me of Fulham and some other sides in the Premier League as well. The processes are very good. The data supports it in terms of chances created, but you still need someone to put it into the back of the net. And Calvert-Lewin has been a little bit inconsistent. Look, I'd feel a lot more confident if I was more confident in the players that were leading the line. That's what it comes down to. I think that you're on to something there, but I'm just going to stick with a Spurs bet here. I'm going to go over their goal total of 1.5 at plus 100. So even money for Spurs to score 2 or more goals in this game, because just the way that they play, it's one-way traffic largely. If Everton are missing some of those key players, especially in midfield, I think they're going to be holding on for dear life. And I think there's still enough goals without Son in the Spurs team to go on and challenge Everton. So yeah, Spurs on the goals at even money. A full unit play for me in that one.
Nice. Yeah, I know what you're saying about Everton, and yeah, they do struggle to put the chances away, but this Spurs team just give you layups occasionally that you can't miss. The goal in midweek, Brentford's first was, it'd take a lot to miss that. And hence the high XG chance. And they're likely to give you at least one of those a game, maybe 2.
What about the second one? You don't just pass it right back to Ivan Toney. Very, very weird, very bizarre.
Yeah. So that I think we're thinking the same things basically. Spurs are going to score a couple.
Just different bets. I actually might like yours more. That's my cue to move on. And also on Saturday, it's Brighton and Crystal Palace. Brighton for the win plays at minus 142 on Pinnacle. The draw at plus 308. Palace at plus 388 to go on and win it. Brighton were smashed 4-0 at Luton Town. The scoreline looked bad. The way that they played was perhaps even worse, if you can actually say that. They were down 2-0 in the first 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Now Brighton are without a win in their last 5 in the Premier League, 2 draws and 3 losses over that span. It's their longest run without a league win since December 2021 under Graham Potter. They actually haven't scored in their last 3 Premier League games. This is Brighton we're speaking about here. 5-1 at home, just a 1 loss, and that came to West Ham. 22 goals scored, 14 conceded. Dahoud actually went out. He's on loan to Stuttgart. Just didn't fit. I like the player. It looked like he should have kind of fit the player to a T playing under De Zerbi. De Zerbi, by the way, did make pointed changes at halftime and shortly thereafter. He sent the message, but he didn't change anyone in the back 3. Perhaps that was a message as well. Adringa and Matoma are still away on international duty. João Pedro, monitor this. He limped off as well in that game, and James Milner came off in the first half through injury. Crystal Palace came in with no wins and no goals in 3, so they went and scored 3 in a game. They conceded inside the first minute to Sheffield United and came away with a 3-2 victory. What did we say last week when we were breaking down the Palace game? Is Michael Olise playing or not? And we didn't think he was, hence why there wasn't that significant lean to make it a Crystal Palace play. He played, he scored, he set up Eze, who scored 2 goals as well. Not a bad day. Palace 2-2-2 in their last 6 Premier League games. 3-3-5 away, but only 11 goals scored and 20 conceded. Eze had some discomfort as he came off. Seems like that's going to be a recurring theme for the rest of the season. And Joel Ward is close to return. Olise also did come off, but I think they were just kind of managing his minutes as they were up over Sheffield United. Head-to-head, played to a 1-1 draw, these two sides. A rather uneventful 1-1 draw as well. The last 10 meetings, interestingly enough, between these teams, 6 1-1 finishes, 2 2-1 games, and 2 1-0 finals as well. So they played to under 2.5 in the last 5. Both teams to score, however, have played in 6 of 7. Brighton haven't lost in 5 to Palace, and Crystal Palace no clean sheet in their last 7 against Brighton. I don't know how much of a rivalry you believe this game is, but I mean, tightly contested here. Like that's a lot of runway, and very little ever separates these sides. Do you keep that in mind and potentially making a play in this one?
Not really, no. I mean, it's a rivalry game, isn't it, as opposed to a derby? That's the way I would look at it. It's. I have a theory for this game that I'm hoping pays dividends. Brighton, if you look at the results this season, they have really struggled against teams that let them have the ball. Quite simple. Very simple theory. If you look at the last 7 matches they played in the Premier League, they've won just once, drawn 4, lost 2. Obviously lost to Luton. They drew with Wolves, drew with West Ham, drew with Crystal Palace, drew with Burnley. Across those 5 games, they averaged 67% possession, and they couldn't beat any of the teams, basically. And I think Crystal Palace set up in exactly the same manner. They'll set up to frustrate. They'll play very, very difficult, look to spring on the counter-attack. And Elise and Eze are difference makers. I think they're going to get a lot of space, a lot of joy in the counter-attack. I'm making a pro Palace play. I didn't think I'd do this against Brighton, but everything to me looks... It kind of adds up in the sense that this is going to go very similar to how Brighton home games recently have gone against teams that kind of stand off and try and frustrate and make life difficult for them. So, yeah, we're getting a 3/4 of a goal head start with Crystal Palace, and I'm more than happy to take that. You know, look at just flick back even further, and you've got draws against Fulham, who sit deep, and Sheffield United, who sat deep. Burnley have mentioned. Wolves did the same. So if it continues to go by that form book, I would suggest that this kind of matchup is something we can profit from for the rest of the season, because Roberto De Zerbi seems very set in his ways, which, you know, we all appreciate. A coach needs his philosophy. But it seems as though these kind of teams that play tough to beat and are happy to sit back and absorb pressure, they've figured out a way of nullifying Brighton's attack. So I'm taking that pro Palace play. It's even money, basically, minus 100. 1 unit play, Crystal Palace plus 3/4.
I considered it as well. I believe over the last 16 games, I think Brighton have only won 3 in the Premier League. Like, this has been like a prolonged slump, if you will, or a team that's just shown an inability to just get it done on a regular basis, which pains me to say. I was tempted. That Palace play was staring me down and saying, Wheels, come bet me. Like, come bet me big time too. I can't do it because the way that Brighton lost, I trust De Zerbi enough as a manager to get a response here. Like, come on. They're not going away 4-0 Luton Town and then laying an egg coming back home to the Amex against a rival, are they? I can't convince myself that's going to happen. Do I think they'll concede? Yeah, because that's what they do. They concede goals, but I expect them to score, certainly. 3 games without a goal, like the way that this team plays, that's just a ridiculously it's a number and a run of form that's unfitting of the way that they play, because they're so aggressive and they love to attack. So I think they'll find a little bit more joy in this game against Palace. I'm just going to go with my standard Brighton play here and stay away from who's going to win it. It's both teams to score and over the total of 2.5 at plus 119. It's gone cold as of late. I was just begging. Again, 2-0, 3-0, 4. I was like, come on, Brighton. I was watching it and I was in pain because they weren't coming anywhere close. But I can't see this one staying goalless. I just can't. And again, maybe if it was just a typical game where both teams were coming up draws or whatever, but that 4-0 performance has to sting and send a message, and I trust the Brighton manager to get more out of his team. That's why I'm siding with that play. I understand the Palace play. I'm still going to be tempted all the way to kickoff to make that play, but that's just my mind. It's nothing to do with data or anything else. I just cannot get past how bad that game was and how atypical that is for Brighton. I'm not sure if you ever have those leans where I know we lean heavily into the data, but like this is one where I don't know. I think that something's going to happen here.
Maybe. They need a reaction, that is for sure. But yeah, I think they would have much rather have played a team like Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, anyone who would give them space to kind of get the swagger back. They're not going to get any chance to do that against Crystal Palace with the way they play. And I think that one of the key players, we always talk about Elise and Eze, but Jordan Ayew has been one of the better players for Palace for a couple of years now, and he's really good at dragging the team up the pitch, drawing fouls from where Crystal Palace can be dangerous. he's back from the African Cup of Nations, made an instant impact in midweek as well to kind of provide Palace with their almost first choice 11, which you've not had for months now. So I think this is a very, very tricky game for Brighton, very trappy. And if they go into it as they have done all season, I just think they'll struggle to get a victory. And if they do, it'll be a close one, in which case we'll only make a half loss.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap. Trap game.
Let's hope it could be very well for my play as long as both teams are putting the ball into the back of the net. Let's move forward to the Sunday fixtures. And this one's going to be a little bit hard to navigate because both teams have a game to be played after this podcast is recorded and before the game is played on the weekend. It's Manchester United and West Ham. The markets right now, I can't wait for your reaction. United minus 128 to win, a draw plus 308, and West Ham, who set well above United in the table, an away win at plus 327. United plays at Wolves on Thursday. They do have 4 points in 4 of their last 5 home games in the league. So points in 4 of their last 5 games at Old Trafford. 3-1-1 for United. They're 6-1-4 overall, but just 15 goals scored and 18 conceded. Onana's back from African Cup of Nations. Rashford was let off the hook. Amrabat's on his way back in unceremonious fashion as he was sent off as Morocco got dumped out of the competition.
Twice.
Twice. Yeah, he came back out and then was sent off again. Unbelievable. It really is
Crazy. Only in AFCON.
But only to Amrabat. It's like symbolic of the way that his season's gone. Like 2023 running that high from the World Cup, and yikes. And Wan-Bissaka seems like he's back in contention as well. West Ham play home to Bournemouth on Thursday, but what we can tell you is that 17 points is tied for 5th most in terms of away points. They're 5-2-4 away from home, 18 goals scored, 22 conceded. But they're 11.5 expected points, according to Understat. Might kind of paint a little bit of a different story how they've been playing away from home. There's just been a weird away side. Like, they lost 5-0 to Fulham, yet they went on and beat teams like Arsenal, Brighton, and Spurs away from home. Kufal returns from suspension. Benrahma, well, he's suspended, but it looks like he's gone to Lyon. Fornals looks like he could be on his way out. We'll see about that as well. Who else? I don't know. We'll see what West Ham does. Phillips, Alvarez, they should play. Kudus, obviously, he's back as well. Head-to-head, West Ham beat United 2-0 earlier this season. They also beat United 1-0 the time before, and these two sides have played to under 2.5 in 5 of 6. Explain the market to me here, where West Ham is so far out in terms of coming away with a win or a draw, even being like a side where you're looking at the handicap, it looks a decent number. I'm surprised by this. What makes anyone think by watching these two sides that as of right now, this moment on this podcast, that Manchester United's a better team than West Ham? Because I can't think of one case that can be made to support that. Can you?
No. Very simple. No, it's very surprising. At the very least, I expected an even money price for Man United. I didn't expect odds on. They're still being priced on reputation, on name, on maybe potential of what people think they could be, as opposed to what they've been for the last year and a half. And I know the results were good under Ten Hag, but ultimately, as I said at the start of the season, the results weren't as good as the performances weren't as good as what the results were suggesting, and there was always going to be some kind of regression if they carried on playing the same way, and that's ultimately what's happened. They were the 6th best team in the league last season. Were fortunate to finish 3rd. This season, they're not even the 6th best team. They are below that, 8th, 9th. So yeah, I'm same as you. I'm really not understanding this market and why we're getting so much juice on a West Ham team that, look, this is the kind of game they thrive in as well. Away from home against a team that likes to play open, that has to play on the front foot, especially now they've got Bowen and Kudus back. That is perfect for their game plan and exactly how they want to play. And Calvin Phillips has had a couple of weeks to bed in and get used to life at West Ham. They're missing Paquetá. You mentioned a couple of players that might be on the way out, but all in all, this looks a really good spot to get West Ham on board. So yeah, it's up to you, listener, whether you want to go straight West Ham win. I wouldn't put you off taking West Ham to win. We saw, was it just before Christmas, these two played at the London Stadium, and it was so one-sided, that game, in West Ham's favour. A comfortable 2-0 win, in which they just held United at arm's length, limited them to next to nothing in the way of chances. But yeah, I think taking the safer play is the way to go, and just take on the handicap. Yeah. If they lose the game by a goal, you get half a loss, and if they avoid defeat altogether, you get a full win. I like that. I think this is one of the bets of the weekend.
Yeah, agreed. Nothing more to add. West Ham full unit play on the handicap, plus 0.75 at minus 110. It's just a debate. Do you see more value being at minus 110 for the handicap, or go on the Asian handicap, bring it down to just 0.5 at plus 113? For that limited juice right there, I don't think it's worth it. You just have that that insurance in your back pocket. The one result that is most unlikely to happen is United to have a multi-goal victory. That would be the one result of all results that would surprise me in this one, and you're kind of safeguarding yourself against that. So I have nothing else to say about that. I just don't think the market.
No, you've nailed it.
Market's right.
You've nailed it. Yeah.
So
in terms of the approach, absolutely take the extra quarter of a goal, because how many times have we seen, even this season when they've not been at the best, United kind of score a late winner, and the Brentford one springs to mind where they were 1-0 down going into added time and they turned that one around. At least if you've got this quarter goal, you're limiting your losses in that case. And as you said, it's difficult to see United winning this handily. So yeah, take the hammers.
We'll see how the markets are affected, and you'll have the ability to look on Pinnacle after the 2 Thursday games have been played. Perhaps there's a reaction, but as of right now, all the value looks to be with West Ham. Let's move on to the game of the weekend. It's Arsenal, it's Liverpool, and it should be fantastic. Arsenal for the win on Pinnacle at plus 128. If you like the draw, it plays at 272. A Liverpool away win at plus 206. Wow. Arsenal tied for second in the table, level on 46 points with City, but City do have a game in hand. A 2-1 win at Forest. Back-to-back Premier League wins coming off back-to-back Premier League losses. They're 3-1-3 in their last 7 in the Premier League. Arsenal being very strong at home, 8-2-1 at the Emirates. Their lone loss came to West Ham back at the end of December. Only Liverpool and City have a better defensive record in terms of goals conceded, and only Man City have a similar home expected goals against. Remember, however, it was earlier in January, Liverpool did go to the Emirates, beat Arsenal 2-0 in the FA Cup. El Nene heading back from the AFCON, and Thomas Partey is close to making his return as well. Liverpool, I mean, what can we say? First place looking fantastic. They're leaders by 5 points, but City do have a game in hand on them. They can go 8 above Arsenal with an away win here. A 4-1 destruction of Chelsea. It was a Connor Bradley game, wasn't it? The right back was great. He scored a goal. Jota, Szoboszlai, Diaz as well. They ended a run of 7 straight draws against Chelsea. The 28 shots is a joint most on record since 03-04 against the Chelsea side of the Premier League, and the 13 shots on target, the most over the last 20 years against Chelsea in the Premier League. 3.66 XG to just 0.48 of Chelsea really paints an accurate picture. No losses in 10 overall, no losses in 15 in the Premier League for Liverpool. They've scored 4 goals 3 times in their last 4 Premier League games, and they've gone over 2.5 in 4 and 5 of all competitions. Both teams to score in 4 and 5. 4 straight away wins in the Premier League, 6-4-1 overall. Their only loss, that's their home numbers. Their only loss, this is the away numbers. Their only loss was to Spurs, 21-10. 10 is the fewest away goals conceded in the Premier League. 18.81 to 16.08 in expected goals to expected goals against, however. It does tell a little bit of a different story. Liverpool picking up points, but all the time it hasn't been convincing. Robertson and Trent both played off the bench again in this one. Jota has 4 goals in his last 4 Premier League games. No Salah, no problem. And Endo is still away on international duty. Head-to-head in the Premier League, it was 1-1 after 2 first-half goals. I mentioned Liverpool getting past Arsenal in the third round of the FA Cup. Liverpool, no losses in 3. Arsenal, no clean sheet in 6 against Liverpool. And they've actually played to the under 2.5 in 5 of 7. So Liverpool, the league leaders, are the underdog going into this game. Another one where you look at the market and you're saying, what do you make of it? Liverpool going to the Emirates as an underdog.
I think they should be the underdogs in this game.
Your voice went up like this, however?
Yeah, I was questioning myself. No, if you obviously you factor in home field advantage, etc. So the fact that Arsenal are the favourites to win the game makes a lot of sense. They are probably a little bit shorter than I expected. I probably expected maybe a plus 135-ish number, maybe plus 140 about an Arsenal win. So I don't think there's any value in taking Arsenal. And that's just purely because these two teams have posted very similar underlying numbers for the start of the season. So obviously the markets, the bookmakers, Pinnacle, they take into account all these underlying data points now and have team ratings, which is how they calculate all the match odds. So these two teams are very evenly rated just in general if you're looking at raw XG data. I agree. I think Liverpool are the better team. Maybe some juice in taking Liverpool to win. I had a real back and forth over what to go with in this game. I was looking at maybe Liverpool on the handicap. I just looking at Arsenal's performances and results against teams that are good recently, there's been one common theme, and that's been that they've been very low scoring. So they played the last 5 games, I'd say, against teams that I would rate very highly, especially in the certain predicaments in which they played them. So City at home, obviously, good side, 1-1-0. Newcastle away, very good at St James's Park, and they were depleted, 1-0. Villa away, good side, 1-0. Liverpool away in the league, good side, 1-1. Liverpool at home in the Cup, granted Liverpool rotated, but lost that one 2-0. So they've all been very low scoring, and I just wonder if this is a game where Arsenal lose, they're out of the title race. Arsenal draw, still in the title race. Arsenal win, obviously they close the gap. But I think the onus is going to be on not to lose this game as opposed to not win it. Because I think ultimately their season's over if they lose this game. Yep. It'd be incredible if they lost to Liverpool and then went on to win the title. I just don't see that happening. I think that's too much to overcome. So I think this is a must-not-lose game for Arsenal, in which case they're going to look at what Liverpool have been doing recently in attack and going, right, we need to clamp down here and make sure we can stop them playing. So I'm actually going to take under the goal total at plus 104. The line's at 2.75. I'm going to take that for a unit play and just hope that I've read the game right and that it doesn't become an end-to-end ding-dong match, which it absolutely could, because two teams have got very good attacking players. The defenses aren't, they're not the strongest points of the team. They are better in attack. But I just think the game dynamics could be one in which both, this is Liverpool's toughest game left of the season, really. I know they've got City, but they play them at home. This is their toughest game left of the season, away at Arsenal. They've already been to Newcastle. All right, Villa maybe, but this is, if they can go to this game and avoid defeat, they're going to be in a really good position. They'll really fancy the chances. So I'm hoping that both teams just kind of, it turns into a bit of a standoff, in which case unders definitely comes into play.
I like the rationale because I believe that it's a game where Arsenal just cannot afford to lose as well. I think that the most likely result is a draw at plus 272, but I'm not going to make that bet. I'm not just...
You don't like betting on draws.
I don't like betting on draws, but I prefer to have 2 potential outcomes rather than 3. That's why I kind of stay away from draws. But Liverpool on the handicap, I just can't look away. It actually, a few hours ago, was at minus 110. It's come down to minus 109. Maybe I'll hold off actually making an official play just in terms of my book on Pinnacle. But that will be the play that I'm making. Liverpool on the handicap plus 0.25. And if it ends in a draw, it's a half win for you. Because who am I to bet against Jurgen Klopp? And it looks like a runaway train right now. Like, it just, everything is ticking, whether it's Trent, whether it's Connor Bradley, whether it be Szoboszlai continuing to show out what a player that he is. Diaz and Jota, like, Jota's absence was really missed early in the season. Like when he's been out for Liverpool, they look a different team. He is the straw
He's
that
good.
stirs the
Yeah.
drink. He is such a good player. And Nunez, like Liverpool would have had more goals if Nunez didn't hit the bar 4 times in that game, including on a penalty. Like he's all over. Like I prefer to have a player like him than someone that's not involved. Nunez is in the middle of it all, and if he can ever figure out his finishing, he's going to be Erling Haaland-esque. He's not there
Well,
yet. But he's all over it.
you say that, but I mean the guy, yeah, he's massively underperformed his XG since he's come to the Prem. But we know he's got that finishing in him. We watched him for Benfica,
Yep.
not just in the Portuguese league, but in the Champions League. He absolutely tore it up in the Champions League, and yeah, he's a player that is just a joy to watch. Like he's just chaos. He's just a ball of chaos. He doesn't know what he's going to do. The defenders don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't stop running. He causes so many problems down channels, and he's great with both feet in terms of providing. I mean, his cross for Diaz for that fourth goal was pinpoint, and yeah, he provides. He what he did in midweek really opened the game up
Totally
for Liverpool,
and he's doing
because
it. He's doing it with more
causing
confidence
problems
now,
behind.
Jake. It hasn't been coming up, but he's been doing it
Yeah.
with more confidence. So I really rate the player. Can Arsenal limit Liverpool? Sure, because I think that Arsenal are an excellent defensive side. I think they have a really good shape. They have a misfiring striker of their own in Gabriel Jesus, who scored the goal, assisted on the other against Nottingham Forest, but he could have had a couple in that game. And just, again, maybe not the most reliable player in that to lead the line for Arsenal. That might be the missing link that they're going to have to address in the summer months, but they're not going to do it now, and it's going to make no difference this weekend. I think that there is a little bit of a gap between Liverpool and Arsenal. So if Liverpool are the underdog and you're giving me near or even money for Liverpool to go on and win or draw this game, and you come away with something, I like that. And there's a recent reference point. Less than a month ago, they won at the Emirates in the FA Cup, and both teams were a little bit changed, but still some of the big dogs were available and playing in that game as well. So Liverpool in the handicap plus 0.25 at minus 109 a full unit play. And it'll be really telling. We'll see what that does to the title race. Liverpool lose could potentially open the door for Man City. And obviously puts Arsenal right back in the thick of it. But if it can come away with a result, you said it, you're liking Liverpool's chances going forward here for the duration of the season. Our final game of the feature 5, it's some Monday Night Football. Brentford hosting Manchester City. Brentford, a big underdog, plus 615 for the win on Pinnacle, plus 395 for the draw, minus 229 for the reigning champions, the 3 times in a row champions in terms of Manchester City. Brentford fell to 15th place after the 3-2 loss at Spurs. They had a 1-0 halftime lead. They were playing well. I guess the good news, Ivan Toney now has scored in back-to-back games, but Brentford have given up 2 or more goals in the last 5 Premier League games that they played. No clean sheet in 13 now overall in all competitions. They've gone over 2.5 in 6 of 7, and both teams to score has played in their last 7 games. Now, they did beat Forest 3-2 last time at home, and overall they are 4-3-4 at home. 20 goals scored, 20 goals conceded. Still missing a couple players away at the African Cup of Nations, including Onyeka. Norgard played midweek. I should say Wisa as well remains away. He's an important player. Add him to the team, they probably look even more dangerous in attack. Norgard played midweek. Reguilon can play after sitting out against his parent club midweek. As for Man City, tied for second with Arsenal. Have a game in hand on both them and Liverpool as they try to chase down the league leaders. 3-1 home win over Burnley. An Alvarez brace on his birthday. The 10th time in Premier League history, by the way, a birthday boy has scored a brace. De Bruyne started the game. Haaland then came on to replace them. City are completely healthy. Yikes. They did concede late. This is what is infuriating for anyone that bets the handicap or any kind of, both teams to score, because they let in these soft goals, which are nonsensical because their expected goals against is minuscule, but they continue to just concede on a regular basis. It's infuriating. 8 wins in a row, no losses in 11, over 2.5 in 9 of 11. Away from home, they're 7-1-3, 5 straight away wins in all comps, 24 away goals is joint best with Spurs, and a 28.05 expected goals on understat is the best in terms of XG away from home by 9 goals. We should also mention Kyle Walker didn't start that game. He's healthy, but head to head, the first game
There's
between
less
these two.
said about that, the better.
I am not touching that. Head to head, the first game between these two sides was postponed because of the Club World Cup and City's participation in it. Brentford did the double against City last season, if you remember that. 1-0 at home, 2-1 away. Perhaps it could do it again at a big number here. Are you betting on it, Jake? You think Brentford has a chance? Look at him shake his head.
No. I mean, obviously, you always have a chance. You can never say never. But this looks a very tough task, given the absentees, given the way in which they've played recently, and the way in which City look. City look really good, as you know. They as we kind of expected, as we forecasted, they are hitting a bit of a stride now and starting to look like a team that could reel off a run of 15 straight wins or something like that. So, it's going to be difficult for Brentford. I like the goal line in this game. I'm going to take over 3 goals. I think it could be quite high scoring. City, they've covered it. That if you look at the last 6 Premier League games, they've had 1 loss in this goal line, 4 wins and a push. I think this is going to go very close again. Brentford, they do have the capabilities to score. We've seen that. 3 against Forest, twice against Spurs, but very vulnerable defensively. And I think City will take advantage of that. Yeah, we're getting near even money for over 3 goals. And if there's exactly 3, then we get his money back. I could see City covering this by themselves.
Yeah, me too. I thought you were flirting around with the Man City over 2.5 goals scored for them at plus 154, which I legitimately considered. Brentford are that poor defensively, or that's the way they've been playing right now. I'll just go a little bit of a different way. You said it, Man City, and I kind of alluded to it as well. Man City just concedes like ridiculous goals that they have no business doing. I think Brentford at home, a team that will be relentless, I should say, in terms of the way they're going to approach things in their attack. I think Brentford can score in this game. I think over is a decent bet, but I'm going to go with a little bit more juice here and play both teams to score and a Man City winner at plus 204. I can't see City losing this game. I can't see it being low scoring. Basically, I'm banking on Brentford putting one past Man City, which, based on recent trend, is entirely possible. This will probably be the game where City will close up shop and not. This is what they do. It's infuriating, but
they wait for you to back them, and then they decide, right, Wales has backed us to concede, so let's keep clean sheet.
Wheeler's a red, we're blue. Forget about him. But at plus 204, I mean, that's too big of a number for me to just not make a play on. So a full unit play, both teams to score, and a Man City winner.
Nice.
Let's move forward. Rapid fire for the rest. Newcastle and Luton Town, both coming off impressive victories midweek. Who keeps it going, Jake?
Probably Newcastle. Home form's sensational, isn't it? And Luton away from home, conceding over 3 expected goals. But I'm going to go with the goal line. I'm going to take over 3 goals, minus 110. As I said, Luton conceding over 3 expected goals per game away from home. And Newcastle are averaging 2.6 expected goals per game at St James's. And fully fit, they looked very good against Villa. I think this could be one where Newcastle maybe do this themselves, but Luton have the capability to get on the score sheet. Over 3.
I like it. Look, I'm a little bit nervous about what Newcastle looks like up top because Isak came off with a groin injury. Eddie Howe's downplayed it, but would it surprise you if he's not able to go this weekend? It wouldn't surprise me. Is Callum Wilson fully fit? They don't have a number 9, like you're playing like Anthony Gordon or Almiron or Murphy, one of those players in that area, and are like a thin position due to injuries and absences just becomes there's a little bit of a gap there. And if that's the case, I don't think Luton Town have any fear coming into this game. I think they've turned things around in terms of their overall form. Their home form is obviously what's propelled them. But if they go on to beat 4-0 against Brighton, I think they can be in this game against Newcastle, a side once again who continues to be depleted, who's not adding anything for FFP reasons. Luton Town on the handicap, plus 125 at minus 102. Just a half unit play for me in this game. Not fully confident, but if Isak's out, I can't back Newcastle or the goals or anything in this game. So just a half unit play, Luton 10 on the handicap. We'll move things forward to also on Saturday, Burnley and Fulham. Fulham couldn't score against Everton. Burnley did score against City. It was in stoppage time in a 3-1 loss. Burnley's actually beat Fulham not only 2-0 this season, but they beat them 2-0 the time before that. So recent history has really sided with Burnley in this fixture. Haven't lost to Fulham in their last 5, for that matter of fact. I know I'm not betting Burnley at home because you simply can't. They're absolutely abysmal. They have 4 points at home this season. I have no bet in this game as well because it looks like Jimenez is going to miss some time with a hamstring leading the line, and I don't know if Fulham can score. No bet for me.
No bet as well. Let's move on to the next game. Perfect. The less said about that one, the better.
Sheffield United and Aston Villa, both coming off disappointing losses in their own right. Ben Brereton Diaz scored in the first minute against Crystal Palace. They lose 3-2. Villa concede 2 from corner kicks in the first half and lose 3-1. Their first loss at home against Newcastle. Now they're going away from home where they haven't been nearly as solid. And these two sides actually drew at Villa Park the last time they played. In fact, it took a stoppage time goal. I believe it was Leon Bailey, I want to say. No, Zanola, I think it was. Anyways, it ended 1-1 at Villa Park last time out. Kind of a lean towards Sheffield United being competitive in this game. I'll get to that in a moment. I want to go to Jake first.
Yeah, you can get stuck in straight away. I've got no bet.
Sheffield United on the handicap. Plus
wow, you brave man.
-1. I have it written here. Sheffield United +1 at -119 or no bet. And the fact that we both went no bet the game prior, I didn't want to go no bet back games. Listen, like Brereton Diaz came off with a little bit of a hamstring. We'll see if he can go, but he adds something that they didn't have, like a real threat across their front line. And their last 3 games, they've been better. They drew against West Ham, an unlucky loss against Luton Town, and a win over Brentford. Villa away from home, like Sheffield United starting to become a little bit more of a difficult place to go play as well. So, yeah, that's my play. Sheffield United on the handicap. Let's make that a half unit play. Half unit play. So, and hope that they come away with a draw in this one. Let's move on to Sunday. Chelsea. Ooh, stinking. They take on Wolves, who play on Thursday. Wolves are the underdog in this one. Another one of those games where I understand Chelsea's playing at home. They've shown better from time to time. I'm not backing Chelsea in this one. Are you? I actually have 2 potential plays written down. I want to see where you go first.
I'm taking over 2.75 goals. I think we've spoken about Wolves a lot in the sense that they're a very open team defensively. They create a lot of chances going forward. And Chelsea are the same. So I can't see this being low scoring.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. That was my one play. Wolves +1. They give you a full goal at -120. You're giving up a little bit of juice, but it's not awful. Wolves, a full goal insurance. That's what I just... Jackson is on his way back for Chelsea. And Cuckoo, does Pochettino need to start him? By the way, the fact that Chelsea paid like $100 million for Caicedo and Enzo, it just looks insane right now. And I think it's showing the flaw in purchasing young players because some players just don't adapt. And when you bring players like this, you just got to preach patience. It's going to take time. Well, how much time? And at some point, you need to see a return on your investment. You know what, Jake? I got your back. Let's go over 2.75 goals at -110. I'll play that as well.
Nice.
Full unit play.
Yeah.
Even though I like Wolves. Even though I like Wolves.
Yeah, if there's goals, Wolves probably they I don't think they lose by a wide margin.
Right. And finally, Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth do play on Thursday. Nottingham Forest have a lot of time off. They played on Tuesday. Awoni came back into the team. Alanga played. And now they're getting Kouyaté and Niakate back from AFCON as well. And Felipe is close as well. So finally, Nuno Espirito Santos is getting some numbers available for his squad. Short turn. I'm not backing Bournemouth in this game. I'm actually playing Forest on the handicap at plus 0.75 at plus 02. They're a combative side. They've been competitive. I think they're playing some decent football. And the fact they had those extra 2 days rest, I really think plays in their favor. So that's my play, a full unit play at plus 102. Good number for me as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the goal line again. I'm going to take over 2.75 at minus 120. Forest under Nuno have been very high scoring in terms of conceding chances, but also contributing at the other end. And Bournemouth are very much the same. So I think it could be quite an entertaining game, that one on Sunday.
All right. So all the plays have been made. 9 out of 10 games for me, 8 out of 10 for Jake. And your favorite bet, the best bet of the weekend is?
West Ham on the handicap.
It's got to be. I mean, I might be singing a different tune after Thursday because we don't know what that's going to look like. I also kind of like this Liverpool play at Arsenal. I have a hard time picturing Liverpool losing right now. I don't know what's going to happen, but it should be a great game. Looking forward to it to wrap things up in terms of the Sunday football. The Super Bowl is still, a week and change away. Rob Pizzola, the kids at the Hammer Forward Progress, providing great content for Pinnacle. Scott Cullen as well. Give him a read, give him a watch as we build up to the Super Bowl. In Vegas, baby, it's Niners and Chiefs. This week, it's all about the football and the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I'm going to be watching that this weekend as well. What are you up to, Jake?
Watching the golf and watching the football.
Wow.
Very similar.
We have incredibly entertaining and vast, expansive social lives. I'm actually playing in a curling bonspiel this Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah. That's one thing people don't know about me. I curl every Monday every Monday afternoon in a league. Have you ever curled before?
I've not. No, I would like to try it though.
It's brilliant. It's much more difficult than it looks. Wish me luck. It's actually it's sponsored by craft beer companies and breweries in the area. So you play your first game, you're serious, and if you lose, you just take advantage of delicious craft beer the rest of the day. Then nothing else matters. Let's put it that way. Good. So enjoy the weekend, everyone. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, tell your friends. We love doing this podcast. And we'll be back next week to do it all over again. Best of luck this weekend, Jake. Good work this week.
Likewise, yeah. I mean, we've got very similar plays, so that usually goes badly.
no head-to-heads, but I'm creeping my way back into it. I have about 3 or 4 games to still make up, but still a lot of season to go. So look out, Jake. Look out.
I'm looking over my shoulder.
Far in the distance.
Rear view mirror. You're a tiny little speck in that mirror, but you're getting bigger.
Yeah. And unfortunately, objects are closer than they appear. So there you go. On behalf of Jake Osgathorpe and everyone at Pinnacle, I am Gareth Wheeler. This has been EPL Insights for Game Week 23.